This chapter occurs after the events of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. And remember, he wasn't just dead, he was dead. He was in the tomb 4 days, and Jesus comes and very publicly raises him to life. And all the ripples that reach out from that, people are impressed, people want to find out more and are attracted to come and hear Lazarus' story and are drawn to Jesus because of it. But it also stirs up trouble, and we gathered that Caiaphas and the other members of the Sanhedrin are worried by this, and they start plotting against Jesus. And Caiaphas prophesies that this man must die for the sake of the nation, and we know that that's a bigger prophecy of what's going on. But here in chapter 12, at the very start, we have a dinner that is put on in Jesus' honour. And it's given by Lazarus and Mary and Martha, the family that Jesus has just really blessed by raising Lazarus to life. And almost feels like the least that they can be doing is to give Jesus a dinner party. But it's interesting that John gives us a significant time stamp. You know, like those photos that you used to have on cameras, you used to have a little date stamp. Well, this date stamp is significant. He says it's 6 days before the Passover. 6 days before the Passover, and that makes it probably the Sabbath. This is probably Jesus' last Sabbath before the cross. You can see why he may well be preoccupied. Martha is doing her usual sorting and serving. Lazarus is sat reclining with Jesus and the other guests. And Sister Mary, note all these descriptions of Mary and Martha are totally in keeping with what we gather from other Gospels. Mary comes in and kneels at Jesus' feet and pours onto his feet extremely expensive oil known as nard. It's poured onto his feet, and then to top it off, she wipes his feet, she dries his feet with her hair, which she's uncovered and she's taken down. And we need to realize this is entirely scandalous. It's an extravagant waste of this precious, expensive oil, but also Mary doing with her hair what is the modern equivalent of, I don't know, something like a lady raising her skirt thigh high in the middle of a sophisticated dinner party, or a gentleman raising his shirt and showing off his belly in the middle of a worship event. I don't know, but this is scandalous, what is going on here. Could it be that she has abandoned all the protocols because she's noticed Jesus' preoccupation? If you've ever seen the movie or the musical Jesus Christ Superstar, they depict this really, really well, actually. Mary's trying to soothe Jesus, who is clearly anxious, clearly preoccupied, clearly worried. Was it that, or was it just overflowing gratitude for what Jesus had done for her family in raising Lazarus from the dead? Either way, the thing that's key is that Mary's focus was purely on Jesus and his needs, giving what she had and pouring it out to him. And it's a beautiful image of worship, isn't it? And as she pours out this oil, the fragrance fills the room. And so our worship could do the same. But undignified love and worship for Jesus can trouble some people. You know, do we ever see people who we think maybe they're being a bit over the top, a bit over emotional? And yes, people can be. But couldn't we do with more people who are pouring out extravagant worship and praise and love and abandonment to Jesus, which has an impact and fills the room or the area with the aroma of worship of Jesus? But all of this is too much for some people. It's certainly too much for Judas, who berates Mary for her waste. It could have helped the poor. Come on, let's be practical. Worship in this way is a waste. Charity, meeting the needs, is what counts. And yes, probably everyone around is going, yeah, you're absolutely right. But something which Jesus says, which is an echo of Deuteronomy 15 and verse 11, he says, this world will always have the poor. By extension, this world will always have the broken, will always have the downtrodden, will always have the damaged, because we live in a broken and damaged, sin-filled world. Selling this nard would alleviate some poverty, this little pocket of poverty. It would alleviate some of the symptoms of the problem of the fall, but not the root cause, human sinfulness. And that is what Jesus is preoccupied about. He knows his time has come. The next day would be the triumphal entry to Jerusalem as we know it, our Palm Sunday, where Jesus is being heralded with palm branches and crowds, cheering his name, blessing him, celebrating what many believe he is the expected, the incoming king. They'd heard what Jesus had done in raising Lazarus, and they're celebrating him coming in riding on a donkey. More than that miracle, actually, more than the raising a man from the dead, the raising of Lazarus was Jesus throwing a gauntlet down to death itself. And this encounter is what Jesus had on his mind. Some Greeks come up, some Greek Jews wanting to see Jesus, probably to ask him stuff, to sit down and learn from him, maybe to see him bless and minister to people. And they ask Philip, and Philip goes to Andrew and says, can they come and see Jesus? And to this request, Jesus doesn't answer it at all. In fact, goes off on one completely. And it reveals what's preoccupying him. He lets out what's on his mind. His hour has come. After all the times where he said, my time has not yet come, when we've been aware that people haven't seized him because his time has not yet come, the kairos moment hasn't arrived until now, and Jesus says, my hour has come. The grain of wheat needs to fall. It needs to land. It needs to die. He knows what's ahead, and you notice he is deeply troubled. We know what's ahead for him, and we're not surprised. He wishes he didn't have to do it. He even calls out there and then to God. But he knows he has to. He knows he has to go through the ordeal that's ahead of him in order to not just have the odd healing here and there, in order that poverty, injustice, sickness and death are not just treated as symptoms but are ultimately defeated, in order for the root cause to be dealt with and not just the symptoms. The grain of wheat must fall and the grain of wheat must die. Jesus must be lifted up, and we know that that means the cross. Then the Jews, then the Greeks, and everyone can be drawn to him, can be drawn to the Father. For the sake of those who believe in him and who want to walk in the light, and for the sake of those who don't believe in him, who refuse to believe in him, and who choose to walk blindly in the dark, Jesus knows what's on his mind. He knows he has to go through rejection, through torture, through brutal execution, through the experience of death itself. And all of this is on his mind. But one thing beyond that dominates his mind. The one thing that I believe keeps him going in spite of that. And that thing is us. Us and our need for him to do all this. That is what is on Jesus' mind. The obedience to his Father, to reach out, to defeat death, to defeat sin, and to bring us into the light.